Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, we will read, For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the
너희를
Lord,
향한 나의 생각은
thoughts of peace
내가 아나니
and not of evil, to
재앙이
give you an
아니라고
expected
평안이요
end.
너희 장래의 소망을 주려 하는 생각이라.
Then shall ye call upon me,
너희는 내게
and ye shall
부르짖어
go and
와서
pray unto
내게
me,
기도하면
and I will
내가
hearken unto
너희를
you.
들을 것이요
And ye shall
너희가
seek me,
전심으로
and
나를
find me,
찾고 찾으면 나를 만나리라.
when ye shall search for me with
나
all your
여호와가
heart.
말하노라.
And I will
내가
be
너희에게
found of you,
만나서
saith the Lord,
너희를 포로된
and I will
중에서
turn away your
다시
captivity,
돌아오게 하되
and I will gather
내가
you from all the
쫓아버렸던
nations,
열방과 모든
and from all the
곳에서
places
그와
whither I have driven you,
사로잡혀
saith the
끌려가게
Lord.
하던 본 곳으로
And I will
돌아오게
bring
하리라.
you again into the place
여호와의
whence I caused you
말이니라
to be carried
하셨느니라.
away captive.
인생이 살아가는 일 속에는 많은
As we
일들을
live our lives, we face
만나게
many
됩니다.
things.
그 중에 사람이 견디기 어려울 만큼 힘들고
Of them, there are
부담스러운
things that are very hard to handle and are burdensome.
그런 일을 만날 때마다
And
사람들은
during those
다
times, all
멈추고
people the same.
내가 뭘
They
잘못해서 왜
think,
이런 일을
aren't I
만나야
going through this
하냐?
because I did something wrong?
나는 왜 이렇게 늘 어려움을
Why must I always
겪어야
go through
되고
difficulties?
힘들게
Why
살아야
must I live a
되고
hard life?
왜 나는 이런 일을
Why must I
완수할
go
수
through
없을까
this?
하고 자기의 어떤
And instead of
문제나
their
형편
problems and
속에서
difficulties,
스스로 자기가 자기 속에
there are many
갇혀버리는
times where
경우들이
people just
많습니다.
become trapped in themselves.
근데 그만 읽어드린
But
말씀에
if you look at the
보면
words that we read
하나님은 뭐라고
today, what does the Word of
말씀하시냐면
God say?
네가 생각하는 것처럼
Things aren't the way
그렇게
that you think.
아니야.
One day,
하나님 어느
God to
날
me,
저한테
He
이
spoke these
말씀을
words.
해주셨습니다. 제
My wife,
아내가
while I was
제가 사역하고
ministering,
있는 동안에
I
10여
remember
년
this to
됐을
be 10 some
기억이
years
납니다.
ago.
어느 날 제가 몸이
One day,
너무
my
안
body was
좋아서
very
병원에
ill and I went to the
갔습니다.
hospital.
그 병원에서 이제
I
검사를
was being
하다가
examined at the
그 원장이
hospital, and the director was talking about
이런저런
this and
이야기하다가
that,
친구처럼
and
가깝게
became
지냈어요.
close like friends.
그래서 옆에 같이
And she saw
따라와서
my
제
wife who was next
마음을
to me.
보고 목사님 제가 사모님도
Pastor,
한번
I will also examine the
알아보겠습니다.
health of your wife. I
예,
said, thank you.
고맙습니다라고 이제
And he was doing several
그런 말씀을
tests.
하다가 이분이 갑자기
And
얼굴이
then his face
싹
suddenly
변하기
changed.
시작했어요.
And he
그러면서
stopped and he
장난을
said,
하시면서 뭐라
Pastor,
하냐면은 목사님 제가 이 분야에 대해서는
although I
잘
cannot talk
이야기를
about it
할 수
all
없지만
about certain aspects, but
빨리
quickly go to the
병원에
hospital,
가서 한번
and it'd be
검사를
good if you
해보시기
get tested.
바랍니다.
Please do
미루지
not,
마십시오.
please do not delay it. And then
그러면서 이제 이분이 저한테
he
굉장히
really asked of us, he
따라오면서
said, when you
집을 바로
leave right now,
돌아가가지고
please go and
검사를
get examined again.
받았습니다. 그래서 이제 거기
So we
나와서
left there and
종합병원에 가서
we went to the
검사를
general
했는데
hospital and we got
아니나
examined.
다를까
And as
검사
expected,
결과가
they said that
낭이라고 이야기가 나왔었어요.
she has a tumor.
그래서 바로 이제
So
제가
I
아는
contacted someone that I
목사님이라고
knew.
해서 이런
I
상황이
told them that
우리가
this is
있다고
the
얘기를
situation that
하니까
we're in.
서울에 있는 병원을
And so we
준비하고
booked a
예약을 하고
appointment at
그
at
다음
a
날 저는
hospital in
아내에게
Seoul, and I went there with my
보고를
wife.
했었습니다.
And
가서
so
이제
we got
검사를 하고
examined,
의사를 만나서
and we
이야기를
spoke with the
하니까 의사가
doctor,
굉장히
and the doctor was very happy.
기뻐하시면서 아니 어떻게
Oh, how did you know
여기까지
this?
오셨습니까?
And come here.
이거는 정말 사람이 어떻게 찾을 수 없을 만큼
You know, this,
너무
it is
초미진이고
very early. It's really the
초초입니다.
earliest stage. It's something so hard to find. It's really good that you're here.
이건
Oh, there's nothing
어려운
to worry
문제,
about. This is not a
문제가 안
problem.
됩니다.
This is very
아주
simple.
간단합니다.
And
정말
so the very comfortable
편안한
heart,
마음으로 아내를 이제 병원에 이제 병실을
I helped my wife get hospitalized
저는 이제
and
그날이 이제
in the
금요일
hospital
밤에
room,
가서
and that was a Friday night that day.
제가 있는
I was ministering
대구에서
at the
사역을
East
시작한
Daegu
교회로
Church and I went back
돌아왔었습니다.
down.
그리고 이제 토요일 날
Saturday,
결과가
Sunday
나오고
passed,
월요일
and then on
날
Monday,
이제 끝나고 화요일 날
the
이제
results
검사
of the test
결과가
came out.
나왔는데
And then Saturday, Sunday
혹시 한
passed, and on Monday,
10시 가까이쯤 돼서 제 아내가
the results of the test came out.
전화를 받는데 전화
Around 10 in the
내용이 어떤
morning,
내용이냐면은
my wife
혈액
called me,
검사가 끝났는데
and I took the call.
조금 아내가
So
심각한
in the
이야기를 한 적이
call,
있어요.
they said that the
그러면서 이제
tests were
그
done,
결과가 초촉이라고
but my
하셨던
wife said
그
something to me that was very
의사님의
serious.
말과는 전혀 다르게
And she said the results,
위기를 넘어서 이제 가고 있는 그리고
it was very different than the
이미
doctor who said it's its very early stages.
임파선에 전이가 돼가는
Right
그런
now, they're in
이야기를 들으면서 제가
stage
깜짝
2,
놀랐어요. 그때 이제
and
말씀드린
already
구강들
the cancer has
모이셔가지고
spread to the lymph
성경적으로
nodes.
서재실에서
And I was very shocked.
밤을 지나서 막 나오려고 할 때 전화를 받았는데
At that
갑자기
time,
제가 이제 그 얘기를 듣고 주저앉았었습니다.
I was about
그러면서
to leave to
그런
preach
생각이
for the
들더라고요.
sisters' meeting. I heard that and I just
아니
fell.
내가
And
반드시
many thoughts came
구원의
to me.
구원을 받고 이날 이때까지 복음 안에
I received
하나님을 섬기고
salvation in
복음을 섬기는 삶을
1881, and
살아왔는데
until today,
왜 이런 일이
instead of the
반복적으로 나야
gospel,
되지?
I served God.
언제적으로 막
I served the
이런
gospel.
생각이 제 마음을 막 잡기 시작했어요.
But why must
내가
this
뭘
happen to me?
잘못했어? 누구와
Initially,
나서고 네가
all
뭘
these thoughts
잘못해서
started
그런
to
거라고
take a hold of my
말해줄
heart.
사람도 아무도
What
없고
did I do
나
wrong?
혼자뿐이었는데 막 그런 생각이
There
막
was no one who ever told me that I've done
밀려오면서
something
제
wrong.
마음에 그
I was saying this
짠한
to
그런
myself.
막 마음이
All
내게
these thoughts
들어왔습니다.
flooded me,
그러다가
and it became very difficult for me to grab a hold of my own
너무
heart. And
마음에서
so,
이 부분에 대해서 갈등이 되고 화가
I had so
나서
much conflict about this in my
그날부터
heart, and
그
I got so
성경책을 제가
angry,
던져버렸어요.
so I threw the Bible that was in my hand.
내가 뭘
What did
잘못했는데
I do
내가
wrong
이런 어려움을 내가
that I
당해야
have to
되나?
go through this
하나님 안
difficulty?
믿겠다고
I'm not going to believe in God anymore.
하나님 앞에 제가 막 악을
And I
썼죠.
started to curse at God.
성경책은 방 한쪽 구석에
So
처박혀서
my Bible was thrown in the corner of my room,
있는데
and it was
그렇다고 내
folded up.
마음에 이런 어려움과 갈등이 사라지느냐고
And that didn't relieve any of the difficulties in my heart. My heart
마치
was in a lot of difficulty,
자동차를 타고 터널 속에 들어갔는데
as if a car
터널이
enters
너무
into a tunnel,
뜨거워가지고
and the
이
tunnel is
말씀을
very
하실
long.
때 그 터널 안에 불빛이 다
And in the middle of a tunnel, all the lights are turned off,
꺼져서
your engine turns off.
문 어둠 속에 홀로 있는
It felt
것처럼
like I was alone in this
앞으로도
deep
뒤에도 빛이
darkness.
없이 지력까지 어둠 속에 빠져 있는
There is
모습을
no light
제가
ahead of
보게
me.
됐어요.
My heart was in a place where it was
그래서
very dark,
그래서 벗어나보려고 막 몸부림을 치는데
and I struggled to get out of this,
이게 해결이 안 되는 거예요.
but it would not get resolved.
하나님을 부르짖으면서 하나님
At that time, I cried out to
제가
God,
구원받았잖아요.
God, I'm saved.
제가 구원받았을
When I
때
received
그때
salvation,
말씀을 주셨지
at that
않습니까?
time, did you not give me your
그
word?
말씀이라도 좀 생각나게 해주세요.
Please allow me to remember those words.
이상할 만큼 그렇게 많이 알고 있던 성경 구절들
Very strangely,
그렇게
all the
많이
scriptures that I
이야기했던
knew,
성경 어떤 말씀도
all
그
the stories of the
상황에
Bible that I
내용이
preached about,
그 말씀이 연결이 안 되니까
not a single word was connected to my heart, and it was very
그래서
difficult.
막 구원받았는데 그 구원받을 때 그때 말씀 있지 않습니까? 그
And I said, I'm
말씀이라도
saved.
생각나게
Please
해달라고
allow me to remember the
하는데
words when I was
그
first saved.
말씀조차도 안 떠오르는 거죠.
Even those words did not come to mind.
한참 그러고 있는데
And even those words did not come to mind. And so that happened for a
내가
while.
한 번도
And all of a sudden,
귀담아 듣거나 내가 그
never once have
말씀이 다시
I inclined my ear to,
이렇게 감각이 됐던 말씀이 아닌
or have I ever really felt in my
오늘
heart
읽었던 이 예레미야 29장
these
11절
words that we read today,
말씀이
Jeremiah
제
chapter
마음에
29, verses 11 through
와닿죠.
14, these words started to come to my heart.
그래서 막 갑자기 그 말씀이 왔는데 막
And
달라고
these words came to my heart.
너무 화가
I
나는 거예요.
asked of it, and these words came to my heart, but I got so angry.
암이 걸려서
My
지금
circumstances right now, my wife she has cancer, she's in stage 2, it's already
제가 이제 세상에
reached her lymph
살면서 많은
nodes.
이야기를 듣지 않습니까?
And so I hear many
사람들이 입에서
things.
오고 가는 이야기를 들으면서
I hear many
암이
things that come out from
걸리면
the words of people.
죽는다 하더라.
They say if you get cancer, you will
암이
die.
걸려서 수술해도
Even
오래
though
못
you
산다고
get
그러더라.
surgery for your cancer,
이런
people don't live that
이야기를
long.
그때는 듣고 홀려버리고 전혀 마음이
When I
안
heard it
들었던
at that time, I thought that it just passed through the other side. I have
아내가
not
암이라는 이야기를 딱
listened
듣는
to it.
순간에
But the moment that I heard that my
그
wife has
이야기가 제 마음에
cancer,
확 집에
those words started to conquer my heart, and I felt this is the end.
이제 내 아내는 죽는구나.
Now my wife will die.
그럼 내가 여기서 많이 살아야 10년일 때.
At most, she's going to live 10 more years. Then how shall we
앞으로 내가
live?
어떻게 일을 하지?
How am I going to work from now
아내가
on?
없는 그 빈자리가 너무 허전하고
The
너무
empty
어려워.
space of my wife is so big, and it felt like it'd
그때
be so
아이
difficult,
둘
so
있었는데
empty.
둘 다
And we have
결혼을 안 하고 있는 상태였어요.
2 kids, and they were both not
온갖
married.
생각에 마음을 막
All sorts of thoughts started to attack my heart.
그런데 내 마음에 그렇게 찾고 부르짖어서 하나님이 주셨던 말씀은
But at that time, I cried out
예레미야
and asked for
29장
the word.
11절 14절 말씀 재앙이 아니라고 하는 거예요.
These words in Jeremiah chapter
내
29 says that it is
눈앞에
not of
지금
evil.
현실은
But the
재앙이
reality that I'm
일어나고
facing
있고
now,
지금
my
암
wife is hospitalized
걸려서
and she has
2기가
cancer.
넘어가고
They say it's
수술
past
받으러
stage 2. She
이제
needs to
이런
get
상황이
surgery.
벌어져 있는데
And that's the situation right
그리고
now.
들었던 수많은 이야기들에 의하면
And according to the many
수술을 하고
things that I
치료받고
heard,
나도 아내는 오래
even
살지
though
못해
she gets
죽는다는 것이
surgery, she gets
내 마음을
treatment, she will
막
not live that
지배하니까
long.
너무
And these
고통스러워.
thoughts started to conquer my heart, and it became
그래서
so
다시
difficult.
처박에는 성경책을 가지고 와서
So I took the Bible that I threw and I opened it up again,
읽었던 이 말씀처럼
just like the words that we read today
나
here.
여호와가 말하노라.
For I know the thoughts that I think towards
희진아,
you, saith the Lord. 희진,
나 하나님 내 생각은 희진이 네가 생각하는 것처럼 그
my
죄악이
thoughts
아니야.
towards you, it's not the thoughts that you think of. They're not of evil.
희진이 네 인생에
희진, in your life,
평안과 네 장래의 소망을 주기 위하는 거야.
it is for peace and for your future. And then all of a sudden I got more angry.
재앙이 뭐가 재앙인데 하고 막 소리.
And I started to shout, what kind of curse is this?
다시 성경을 또 던져버렸어.
And I threw my Bible again.
하나님 필요 없다.
I said, I don't need you, God.
그런데
However,
성경책은 내 손에서 던져져가 뒹굴고 있지만
although I threw my Bible from my hand and my Bible was on the ground,
떠나자고 계속 매몰들기 시작.
but these words did not leave my heart. They continued to stay.
그리고 시간이 지나가면 갈수록
And as time passed,
신기하게도 제 마음을
so amazingly,
지배했던 부정적인 죽는다.
all the negative thoughts thinking that it won't work, that she's going to die, all those thoughts slowly started to disappear.
말씀이 제 마음을 지배하고
And these words began to conquer my heart. They started to grab a hold of my heart.
신비롭게도
So amazingly,
암에서 벗어나는 기적 같은 일을
like a miracle,
아내를 입은 적이 있어요.
my wife was freed of cancer. I was able to receive that grace.
그날 이제 부인을 마치고 수술을 받기
So that day, the sisters' meeting finished, and then I went up to Seoul for the surgery.
그때
And at that time,
박옥수 목사님께 전화를
I called Pastor Oksu Park.
그때 목사님께서는
But at the time, Pastor,
케냐에 가 계시고
he was in Kenya, Africa.
아침에 그쪽에 아침 새벽에 모임을
I think he was in a meeting over there early in the morning. He would not pick up.
다시 목사님이 이제 제가
So again, I called Pastor's wife, and I was waiting. And then Pastor, he gave me a call.
그 전화 첫 마디 목사님께서
The first thing he told me in the call was, Pastor Park, yes,
암
cancer?
아무것도 아니야.
It's nothing.
나는 굉장히 심각.
For me, it's something very serious, but he's saying it's not.
그냥 뭐라 그래?
So what did I say?
예 하고 대답.
I replied, I said yes.
그두 번째 목사님께서
And then the second thing Pastor said was,
수술을 서둘러.
hurry up with the surgery.
안 그래도 이제 연락 받고 올라와.
And so I also got that call, and I quickly went up to Seoul.
수술 날짜를 알아.
I called people that I know, and it would take 2 months to get the surgery.
후에야 수술 날짜가 잡히는데.
2 months later, we had the date for surgery.
목사님께서는 빨리
The pastor, he said, hurry up with the surgery.
그리고 목사님께 다시 박 목사 예.
And then Pastor said again, Pastor Park, yes, if she eats stopio, she'll be healed.
그리고
Yes.
또 다시 목사님이
And then again, Pastor, he said it again.
아무것도 아니야.
Cancer,
예.
it's nothing.
빨리 수술
Yes.
서둘러. 예.
Hurry up with the surgery. Yes.
또벨 먹으면 낫어. 예.
If she eats stopio, she'll be healed. Yes.
저는 대답만 예. 예.
So I just replied, yes, yes.
이렇게 6번 대답만 했어요.
So I just replied six
그러고는
times.
전화 끊으셨는데 신비로운 것은
And that pastor hung up. And what was so amazing was
수술 날짜가 알아본 결과에는 2달 후에 날짜가 잡혀서
we looked
그래도
into the date
그때라도
of the
수술해
surgery.
주십시오라고 이제 이야기해놓고
And so we were
이제
told it'd be 2 months
검사
later. We said,
결과를
please do that for
보기
us.
위해서 이제 차례를 기다리고 있는데
And so we were waiting for our turn to
제
get the
아내
results of the
앞에
tests.
어떤 젊은 부인인데
In front of my wife, there was this young woman.
담당 의사분하고 앉아서 대화를 하고 있어요.
She was talking with the head doctor.
갑자기 그 부인이 막
All of a sudden,
화를 내면서 막
this lady got angry
뛰쳐나가더라고.
and she ran out.
그래서 뭐라고 얘기하냐면 막 너가 둘이가 짜고 막
And
이러면서
she was saying, hey, both of you, you're in cahoots.
그러나 나중에 알고 보니까 이분이
Later,
다른
later we found
병원에서
out
검사를 했는데
she got tested at another hospital.
담당 의사분이
The head doctor at that hospital,
부인의 병에 대해 해준 이야기와
what he said about her sickness,
이 병원에서
the head
똑같이
doctor of this hospital was saying the exact same thing.
어떻게 똑같은 얘기를
And
할
she
수
said,
있느냐.
how can you both say the same thing?
그러면서
So
네가
I assume
물어보고
that's
들어보고
why
그래
she
짜고
got angry.
이야기하는 거 아니야.
Hey, both of you, you asked each other, you called each other, you're in cahoots. And so she got angry and she left. She said, I'm not going to get surgery. And she ran out.
따라오셨던 어머니 같은 분이 막
And I think her mother followed behind. She said, I'm sorry. And then she followed the doctor out. So the doctor, he left for a bit and he came back and I was very nervous. Oh, what's going to happen?
그리고 이제 아내가 이제 차례돼서 이제 의사 앞에 섰어요.
And it was our turn in line.
검사 결과를 쭉 들으면서
And so we heard about the results of the tests.
2기가 넘어가고 있습니다. 처음에는
You are past stage 2. We thought it was in the very early stages.
지금 2기가 넘어가고 있습니다.
But right now it's past stage 2. We have to hurry up with the surgery.
그러면서 이분이 뭐라고 하냐면
And then what he said was,
저는 오늘 근무 끝나면 휴가를 갑니다.
today when I finish,
일주일
I'm going to be
휴가를
on
가면서
vacation.
다음 주
After 1 week of vacation,
들어옵니다.
I will return on this day.
근데 다음
But
주 내가 돌아온 첫 출근 날
on the first day that I return,
비어 있습니다.
there is an empty slot for surgery.
근데 혹 수술하실랍니까?
Would you like to get the surgery then?
아니 내가 알아볼 때는 분명히 2달 후인데
When I looked into it, surely it was 2 months later.
무슨 소리야?
What's he saying?
간두지 마시지. 그리고 얼른 제가 한다 그랬어요.
And so I said quickly, oh, we'll do it.
아니 분명하게
No, surely
수술 날짜가 없었는데
there was no date for surgery.
그 짧은 사이에
But in that short amount of time,
주시면서
after Pastor
빨리
called me,
서둘러
he said, hurry up with the surgery.
2달 후인데요 하고 나와야 되는데
I was going to say,
얘기하고
but it's 2 months later.
오늘 대답한 것밖에
Instead, I said yes. All I did was reply.
신기하게도 하나님이
So amazingly,
그 수술 날짜를 일주일 후로 딱 당겨놓은 거예요.
God, he pulled the surgery to be 1 week later.
내가 이해가 안 가요 지금도.
And even now, I don't understand.
그리고 이제 일주일 후에 수술 날짜를 잡고
So a week later, we got that date for the surgery.
다시 교회에 왔다가
And then I brought my wife back home to church. And then a week later, we went for the surgery.
좀 수술이 길어졌어요.
And the surgery became a bit longer.
너무 수술이 잘 되어서
And I was very nervous, but the surgery went very well. And after she went out of the surgery room and into the hospital room, so amazingly, there was the dobia. Pastor said, if you eat dobia, she'll be healed. And so amazingly, God, through his servant, the words that he speaks,
예레미야 29장 11절 14절에 있는 이 말씀
and Jeremiah chapter 29, it matched so well in my heart. Ah, this is not of evil, this is for peace.
저는 이 일을 통해서
And so through that,
병이 나와 내 아내 인생에 이제 이걸 끝을 내는 정말
this
절망적이었고
cancer, it was so despairing. It put an end to my life and my wife's life. I felt like this was a curse and it was so painful. But through this, in my heart,
하나님을 향하여 갈 수 있는 마음이 만들어졌고
a heart was made
또
where
하나님
I
종과 제 마음이
stood in front of the Lord,
예하고 받아들일 수 있는 마음을 만들어
and it made my heart so that I accepted what the servant said. All I did was reply yes.
나는 막 그 생각에 확
I was caught up in my
네 하고
thoughts,
대화방밖에 없는
but
거예요.
all I did was just reply
그
saying
말을
yes.
받아들인 그거 하나 때문에
By that one fact that I accepted those
신비롭게도 내
words,
마음의 생각을 바꿀 뿐만
so amazingly,
아니고
not only did it change the thoughts
실질적으로
in my
내 앞에
heart,
있는 아내에 일어나는 이 문제들을
but in
하나씩
actuality,
하나씩
the difficulties that my
풀어가면서
wife was
하나님께서
facing,
일을 하는 걸 볼 때
God was solving them
정말
one
내
by one.
마음에
And as I saw that truly in my heart,
신비롭기도 하고
it's so amazing.
이렇게도 이루어질 수
I
있구나.
felt, oh, so this is what
그러나
can happen.
솔직히 제 마음에는 그게 뭐 믿어지지 않았었어요.
To be honest, I really
그냥
couldn't believe it in my heart.
목사님이 말씀을 하시니까
But just because
하나님
Pastor said so,
종이
the servant of
아니
God,
수술 서둘러 그러니까
he said, hurry up with the
예
surgery. Oh, okay, yes.
아무것도 아니야.
Cancer, it's
나는
nothing.
마음이 엄청 심각한데.
For me, it's something so serious. I just said yes.
그러고 났는데
And
내
then
마음이 그렇게
afterwards,
심각했던 마음이
that very
나도
serious
모르게 이
cancer,
마음이 아무것도 아닌 것으로 바뀌어지면서
my heart
그
changed where
말이
cancer is nothing.
말씀이 내 마음에
Those
들어오면서
words entered my heart.
부정적이고 마음에 대해서 막 어려움 속에
My
있고
heart that was in
고통에 있는 내
difficulty,
마음을
full of
하나님께서 고쳐주실
negativities.
뿐만 아니고
God allowed
말씀으로
me to break free of
삶을
it.
이겨서
And by the
지금은 저
word,
아내가 건강한 몸을 가지고
we were able to overcome it.
지금 같이
And
건강하게
today,
살고 있습니다.
my wife, she is
그
healthy, free
후에
of cancer,
일주일에
and we
다시
both work for the
1년 되셨
gospel.
아내가 암이 재발되었는데
My wife's cancer
그때도
relapsed, and the same thing happened.
재발하면 죽는다 하더라.
Well, if cancer
그게
relapses, people
밀고
die.
들어왔지만
Those
아니야.
thoughts came flooding into my
전에는
heart, but I
이
said no.
말씀이 제 아내와 싸워서 이겼고 제 마음을
These
이겨주셨지.
words, they fought against my heart and my wife's heart, and it
또
won.
재발하는 것도 이것도
That
재앙이
even this
아니야.
relapse, it's not
이것
of
또한
evil.
평안과 소망을
This is
주기
of peace.
위함이야.
This is for hope.
그럼 하나님 이 일을 통해서 더
Through
크고
this,
놀라운 세계를 나나 내 아내에게
God,
보여주게
He will
주신
show
거다.
myself and my wife a greater
신비롭게도
world.
그
And so
이후에
amazingly,
다시 수술을 했는데
afterwards,
지금은
she
더
had surgery
좋은
again.
건강한 몸으로 함께
And
복음하기
today, we stand in the gospel much healthier than before.
우리는 우리 앞에 닥치는 일들을 놓고 우리 생각을 갖고 형편에
In front of the things that we face,
그 마음이 지배를 하다 보니
this heart in us,
나도 모르게
without
말씀과
ourselves
생각,
knowing,
생각이라는
there are
세계
many
속에
times, or even myself, I'm being dragged by by my thoughts and not by the word.
어린 시절에
When I was younger, I really wanted to study.
정말 공부를 해서
I wanted to
좀
study,
인생을
and I wanted to live a meaningful life,
되게 잘 되게
a good life.
남들처럼 이렇게 어렵게 안 살고 정말 인생을 좀
I
펼쳐보고
didn't want to live a difficult life. I wanted to really live a better life than others. I tried very hard to study, but I was in a situation where I could not
그래서
study.
학교를 가기 위해서 운동을 했는데
And so, in order to go to school, I had to
그때에
exercise.
학교를 다녔죠.
And so,
그러다가
by that, I was able to go
운동하다가
to school.
몸을
And
다쳤고
so, as I was
정말
playing sports, I got injured.
기가 막힌 운명에 놓여 있었습니다.
I was placed in a situation where I could no longer play sports.
다시
And so,
폐기력까지 얻어서
on top of that, I had tuberculosis.
상황이 생겼어요.
When I was in a situation where I could not live on,
결국 마지막에 안 돼서
I went back to my family, and ultimately, things didn't work out, so I had to go back to the countryside. Even there,
있을 수 없었어.
I was no longer able to stay in the countryside.
쫓겨나야 하는 그런 일들을
I was kicked out of my own house,
굉장히 마음이 어려웠었어요.
and it was very difficult for me in my heart.
그래서 이제 갈 데 없어 가지고 때로는
And so I had no place to go, so I would just go here and there. I would try to look for food, try to avoid the rain.
허기진 배를 움켜쥐고 이곳저곳 누비면서
And with an empty stomach, I would just wander here and there. At times, I would pick up scraps. At times, I'd go up to the mountain to eat some
어느 날
vegetation. And then one day in my life,
하나님을 믿는 좀 특별하게 믿는 분이었어요.
there was this one person who was very special who believed in God. And this person came to me as I was walking and said, Hijin, yes,
나와 함께 교회 가자.
let's go to church.
아무 대꾸 없이 그 말을
So
듣고
without saying anything
그분이
back, I just heard that. I just
교회를
followed that
갔는데
person
교회가 아니더라고.
and I went to
그냥
church and it wasn't really a church.
시골 운막집이었어.
It was just a small
들어가
house in the countryside.
보니까 사람 한 열댓 명 앉아가지고 있는데
And
어떤
so there was
한
around 10 some people
여자가
there.
막
And
이야기를
this
하는
one
거예요.
lady, she was talking.
교회는 이렇게 하는구나. 처음 가봐서요.
Oh, I guess this is a church. It was my first time going to a
그러다가
church.
앉아가지고 있다 보니까 따뜻하고 좋아가지고 그냥 실컷 잤지.
And I was sitting there and it was very warm, so I just fell asleep. I
그래서
didn't
다시
even
이제
know it myself.
일어났는데
And then I got up again
음식을 주더라고. 밥을 주더라고.
and they gave me food.
정말 밥 안 먹은 지 오래됐어.
And it was a while since I had food.
그래서 그 밥을 얻어 먹고 났는데
So I ate
그분이
that food.
성경책을 들고 와서 앉아서 저한테
And that
설명을
lady, she brought her Bible
교회가
and spoke to me
교회가
about the
없는데
Bible.
내가 뭘 압니까?
I've never once been to church, so what would
근데
I
내
know?
마음에서
However, in my heart,
그분이 성경을 보여놓고 이야기해 준 이야기를 듣는데
she opened the
그걸
Bible and she was
내가
speaking to me.
뭐 맞니 안 맞니 거부하고 이럴 만한 내 마음의 힘도 의지도
There
끝나
was no more
있었어.
strength, no more will in my heart to
그냥
reject what she's
들었어.
saying, to argue what's right or what's wrong. I just listened.
그렇구나.
Oh, is that so?
그래서 이런 거구나. 설명을
Oh, so
하는데
that's why.
알아들을 수 있도록 설명해 주는 그냥
And so she
들으니까
explained to me
이해가 되는 거예요.
so that I could understand. I just listened and I
가만히
understood.
듣고 있다가 보니까
After listening for a while,
막 죄인이라 하다가 나중에 죄가 없다고
and
설명해
she
주시더라고요.
said I was a sinner, but then later she explained to me
그래서
that I'm not
왜
a
죄가
sinner.
없느냐로 설명해 보니까
She
예수님이
explained to me, why don't
오셔가지고
I
죄를
have sin?
다
Jesus
십자가에서
came
죄를
and
짊어져
all my sins
죽으시고
he
살아나셔서
carried upon
부활해서
himself
죄가
and died on the
없어졌다.
cross.
그래서 우리는
Then he rose again, and sin is no
의롭다,
longer.
거룩하다.
Sin
그러면서
is no more. Now we are
그때
righteous.
저한테 이야기해 주던 말씀 중에 이사야 53장 6절 이야기를 해주셨어요.
And then of the words that she
우리
spoke to me,
무리의
she spoke about
죄악을
Isaiah chapter 53, verse
그에게 다
6.
담당시켰다. 그가
The
바로
Lord has placed on him
예수님이에요.
the iniquity of us all, and he
그래서
is
내가 죄
Jesus.
때문에 죽어서 지옥 가야 되는데
Because of my sins,
하나님은
I should
나를
die and go to
살리기
hell.
위해서
But in order to
예수를
save me,
보내서 그 죄를 예수에게 담당을
God sent
시키고
Jesus
그
and
예수님이
placed
내
on
죄 때문에
Jesus all my
십자가에
sins.
죽으시고 살아나셔서
And because of
끝을
my
내고
sins, Jesus
나를
died on the
의롭게
cross. My
하셨다라고
sins have been
이야기를
put to an
해주셨어요.
end, and I have been made
그렇구나.
righteous. That's what she told me. Is that
그냥
so?
받아들였어요.
And I
그걸
just
뭐
accepted
믿고
it.
안 믿고 거발 이런 힘도 없었고 의지도 없었고
I had no more
끝났어요.
strength to say I believe, I don't believe, or to argue.
그러네.
Oh, is that
근데
so? I
신기한
guess
거예요.
it is.
그러고 왔는데
But what's so
신기한
amazing
것은 그
is,
말씀이 계속 내 마음에서 떠나지
as I
아니하고
left, those words would not leave my heart. They
내
continue to stay in my
마음에
heart.
그 말씀이 자리를 잡으면서 내가
As those words took a
죄가
hold of my
없어졌다.
heart, my sins are
하나님 나를
gone.
구원해 주셨다.
God has saved me.
내가 의롭게 됐다. 이런
I
내가
have been made righteous.
나를 볼 때
A
너무
person like me,
형편없는 난데
when I look at myself, I'm so pathetic.
하나님이 그 말씀을 통해서
But God, through His Word,
이렇게 말씀을 이렇게 전해 주신 들은
all
것만
I did was just listen to what was being
들었던 그
preached to me.
말씀이 내 마음에
But
자리를
those words that I
잡으면서
heard grabbed a hold of my heart.
신비롭게
And
내 마음의
amazingly,
생각을 하나씩 하나씩
one by one, it began to change how I thought.
그러고 나서 이제 좀
And
시간이
then
지나고
some time
보니까
passed, and one day, I
하나님
said, God,
이제 좀 있으면 겨울이
soon the winter will come.
춥습니다.
And it's so cold.
지금은 뭐 집동 사이에서 나무 집 불때 나궁이 붕 옆에서
Right now,
우리 밤을
in the
보내주고
small hut by a kitchen, I'm able to spend the nights. But the winters are very cold.
겨울을 지낼 수 있는 움막 하나 집을 주면 안 돼.
Lord, can you not give me a room, a place to stay in the winter?
세상 천지 어디 누가 뭐 폐결에 걸려가지고 피를 타고 막 뒹구는 인생에게 누가 집을 주고 방을
People of
주겠어요?
this world, who would give a
그런데
guy who has tuberculosis and who's coughing blood a
그러고
room?
났는데 집을
But then
주셨어요.
afterwards, God gave me a room to stay.
정말 좋은
It was a
집을
very
주셨어요.
nice house.
거기서 삶을
And I lived
살았어요.
there.
나무를 갖다가 불을 떼어서 방을 다
With the fire, with the wood there,
그러면서
I was able to make a
여름을
fire
보낼 수
and I was
있었어요.
able to spend the winter in a very nice room.
그래서 어느 날
And then one day,
성경을
as I was
보니까
reading the Bible,
너무
I
배가
was
고팠어요.
so hungry.
저는 기도를 어떻게 하는지 몰라서 눈 뜨고 기도했어요. 누가 가르쳐
I
준
didn't
게
know how to
아니고
pray, so I just
하고
prayed with my eyes open.
그냥
No one
성경을
taught me how to
보면서
pray, so I
하나님
just thought that's how you pray.
배고파요.
I was reading the Bible and I said, God, I'm
세상의
hungry.
부모도 자식이 배고픈 걸 알고 먹을 걸 주는데
Parents of the world know when their children are
하나님
hungry and
저는
give them food.
살아있잖아요.
But God, I'm saved
배고파요.
and
밥
I'm
좀
so
주세요.
hungry. Please give me food.
그러다가
And then
성경책을 가슴에 끌어안고
I
누웠더니
took the Bible by my
잠이
chest
잠을 잤어요.
and I got
어느
sleepy and I
날
fell asleep.
눈이 부셔가지고 아침 이제 햇빛이 쫙 이제 문으로 비치 오는데 우리나라 이제
And then the
에어컨도
sun was
방문이
shining through the window
창호지 한 장
and it
붙여가지고
was so bright that I
열어가지고
woke up.
빛이 막
And so back in the day,
이래가지고
the
뒹굴다가
doors were like windows. And so it was so
일어났어요.
bright, so I was just rolling around and I got up.
그리고 이제 방이 이제 이렇게 문을 열면 바로 이제 앞에 조만한
And
엉덩이
so
하나
if you
걸칠
open the
만한
door,
마루가 있고 그리고 이제 바로 밑에 이제 마당
there's a
마당인데
small there was this small place where you
놀다가
can sit,
가만히
and
있었어요.
then it's the
문을 딱 열고
outside. So I was
그
just
문
rolling around and I
앞에
got up to use the bathroom.
조만한
In front of the
마루처럼
door,
마루 위에
there's a small place to
한우가
sit
있었어요.
made of wood, and
보니까
on that little
김이 뭐랑
ledge there was rice,
그
and there was steam
옆에
coming off of
조그마한
it.
그릇에 아침에
And in
막
a small
밭에서
bowl
막
next to it,
얻어온 열무 김치 같아 막 무친 열무인데 그거 하나
there
하고
was kimchi,
밥 한 그릇이
radish kimchi that was freshly plucked out of the field,
어
and a small bowl of rice
누가
by
이렇게
my door.
놓았지?
Oh, who placed this here?
그러다가
And then
밤에 잠들 배가 너무 고프다고 밥 달라 했던 기도했던 게 생각이 어?
I remember the prayer that I prayed at night because I
하나님은
was
내
so
기도를
hungry.
들어주신 거야?
Oh, does that mean God heard my prayer? Is that the case?
모르겠어요.
And I don't know.
누가 불쌍해서 갖다 줬겠죠.
Someone must have felt bad for me. That's why they placed it
근데
there.
그날
However,
너무 배가 고팠어.
that night I was so hungry.
투덜거렸죠. 기도라기는.
And so I just mumbled. Rather than saying I prayed,
배고파요.
it's just something that I mumbled. I just said I'm hungry. Please give me food.
세상의 부모도 자식에게 먹을 걸 주고 밥을 주는데
Even
하나님이
people of the world give their children food when they're hungry.
밥좀
God, aren't you my father? Please give me
그러고
food.
잠들었는데 그다음에
And then I
아침에
fell asleep. The next morning, there was food.
그 밥그릇을 제가 손으로 방 안으로 걷어놓고
So I took that bowl of rice
너무
inside,
좋았던 기억이 나요.
and I cried so much in my memory. I think I cried for more than 30 minutes.
배가 고픈데 밥을 줘서 그런 게 아니고
I didn't cry because I was given food when I was hungry. But what am I?
내가 그냥 배고프다고 기도했는 하나님이
I
밥을
just
주시고
prayed saying that I was hungry, but God gave me food.
춥다고 했을 때 이 집을
When I said I was
이
cold,
좋은 집을 하고 쓰라고 줬는데
God gave
집을
me this
주시고
room, this nice room to
밥도
use.
주시네.
God who gave me this room, He even gives me food.
그러면 세상 사람 나를
If
버리고
that's the case,
가족도
the
나를
world has forsaken me. My family has forsaken me.
나를 버리고 외면하는
Everyone has forsaken me. They
하나님은
all
나를
ignore
버리지
me.
아니하시고
But God has not forsaken me.
내가 추운 겨울을 힘들어할 걸 아시고 집을 주시고
He knew that the winter would
배고프다
be
할
tough, so He gave me
때
this room.
밥을
When I
주시고
said that I was hungry, God gives me food.
저는 그 삶 속에서 나를
And in my
도와주시는
life,
많은 하나님이 일하는 걸 만났습니다.
I've met with God many
그러면서 그
times where He
밥을
has helped me.
먹으면서
As I was eating that food, I felt that's enough.
이 하나님이 내 인생을 이끌어 주신다.
If this God is leading my life, then although I may be here right
집을
now,
주시고 밥을 주신다면
if God
내
gives me a
병도
room to
고쳐주시고
stay
내게
and food to
필요한
eat, He
주시겠네.
will heal my sickness. He will give me everything that I need.
그 후에
And
성경을
afterwards,
보다가
as I was reading the
요한복음
Bible,
5장 말씀을 읽다가
as I was reading John chapter 5,
하나님 앞에 이야기한 적이 있어요.
one time I said to
38년
God,
병자가 현관 안에 누워 있는데 예수님이 찾아가셨어요.
the man with infirmity 38 years was
병이
lying by the
오래된 걸
pool.
아시고
Jesus
그
came to
친구를
him.
찾아가서
He knew that he had been sick for a long
네가
time
낫고자 하느냐.
and asked him, "Do you wish to be made
그
whole?"
친구가
And that man,
물이 이동할 때 내가 넣어줄 사람이 없어서
when the water is stirred, there is
내가
no man to put me in the
가는데
pool.
다른 사람이 먼저 들어가.
While I go down, another goes before me.
그때 예수 그 친구 이야기를 듣고 네 자리를 또 일어나 걸어가.
After hearing what that man said, Jesus said, "Rise, take your bed and
신기한 거는 그
walk."
친구가
What's so amazing is
38년 동안
this man,
걷지도 못한 자리에 누웠던
for
친구가
38 years, who
아주
could not walk,
자리를
he was
걸어가는 거예요.
bedridden. But all of a sudden, he got up, took up his bed, and
그
walked.
말씀을 몇 번 읽었었거든.
I had read these
그날은
words
그 말씀이
several times before, but that day, as I read it,
예수님,
Jesus,
이 친구는 구원도 안 받았잖아요.
this man, he's not even saved.
구원도 안 받았는데
He's not even saved,
당신이 찾아가셔서
but you came to him,
이 병을 고쳐주지 않으셨습니까?
and did you not cure his sickness?
전 구원 받았잖아요.
But me, I'm saved.
예수님,
Jesus,
제 병을 좀 고쳐주시면 안 돼요?
can you not heal my sickness?
내가 나처럼 이렇게 버림받고 소외돼서
Really, I've been forsaken, I've been
거늘지고
abandoned.
정말 어두운 데
People
살고
who are truly
있는
living in darkness,
그
to just
친구에게
one friend,
내가 꼭 내가 만난 이 예수님을
I really want to introduce to just one friend about the Jesus that I've
그리고
met.
내가 죽어도 야함이
If
없어.
I do that and die, I will have no regrets.
이 몸을 가지고 가면 병신에다가 피를 토하는 이런 인생이 가면
If I die, if you take this body of mine that's just been coughing up blood, it will become of no help for you.
괜찮으면
Can you not please cure this sickness?
그렇게 제가
If not, that's fine too.
내놓으란 얘기잖아요, 그죠? 뭐 어떻게
And
하는지
so,
몰라가지고 그냥
I didn't know
그렇게
anything. That's just what I
마음이
felt in my
들어서
heart. So I just said this, and I just called it a prayer.
그러고 이제
And then I just forgot about it.
시간이
And time
지나니까
passed, and one day, I
내가
was so
환경이
shocked
달라졌어.
because
그렇게 피를 토하던
me,
내가
who had
피를
been
안
coughing blood so much, was no longer
내가
coughing
조금만
blood.
그래도 힘들고 막 어려운 그렇지가 않고
And I was always in difficulty and a tough time, but it was no longer like that. One day I stopped coughing. So amazingly, I went to the hospital and I got checked.
폐결핵이 다
And my tuberculosis was all healed. Right now, Right now, I get around just fine. I'm healthy. My hip has been healed. My tuberculosis has been healed.
그때 제가 동대구에서 검사할 때 그분이
At that time, when I was being examined in East Daegu,
아버지
that man said, Pastor,
폐가 굉장히 안 좋습니다.
your lungs are very bad.
저는 웃었어요.
And then I smiled and I laughed.
이분이 왜 웃으세요?
He asked me, why are you laughing?
저 옛날에 30년 전에
30 years ago,
폐결핵 걸려 죽다가 살아났습니다.
I had tuberculosis. I was good for dead. Oh, is that so? Then it's okay.
그 흔적이 검사에 나타났던 것 같아요.
And so I think the traces of that showed up in the results.
신비롭게도
And so amazingly,
그날 위해 참 많은 일들을 당해왔지만
I've been through many things
정말
since then. But truly,
건강한 몸으로 하나님 앞에 살 수
God
있는
had healed me and given me a healthy body so I could live for Him.
그냥
I
나
just said, Lord, I'm
구원받았죠.
saved.
이
This
해결력
tuberculosis, my hip, please cure it.
제가 이대로
If I live
가면
on like
그게 안
this, I will
된다.
be of no help.
그렇게 이야기.
That's all I said.
지금 보면 이제
And
내
so when I look back now, I was pretty much
근데 하나님은
blackmailing him,
그런
half
제 인생을
demanding it, but
바꿔주셨어요. 내
God, He had
몸에
completely changed my life. He cured the sickness in my body. He He healed my tuberculosis. I was abandoned. I had nowhere to go. God had made it so I would no longer be abandoned. I will no longer be ignored. Inside of God, God has allowed me a blessed life inside of Him. And truly me, I got injured, I got tuberculosis, I was forsaken by my family when I was kicked out. How can my life become such a mess? How can my life be in shambles like this? Can't I live a good life? Can't I be a bit healthy? Why must I be abandoned like this?
원망과 괴로움과 고통과 막 한이 맺혔었는데
I was full of resentment, complaints, anger. But through that,
예수님을 만나게 해주셨어요.
in my life, I was able to meet with Jesus. Had I not gone through those things, the Lord would not have entered me. He gave me this great grace of salvation. He has allowed me to live this tremendous life in the gospel. That is why God has allowed these problems in my life. When I saw it with my eyes, it seemed like a curse, it seemed like a plague. But when I saw it inside of God, it was not a plague, it was not a curse. It was a great blessing to give me eternal life. And our God does not just do that in my life. In order to lead all of us into this world, God is giving us all sorts of difficulties. 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 8. And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die.
엘리야가
And Elijah
제일
said unto
좋은
her,
가루가
Fear not,
무엇이냐?
go and do as
맹가루.
thou hast said,
먼저 그거
but
쓰고
make me
나를
thereof a
위해
little
작은
cake
떡
first,
하나를 만들어
and bring it
내리고
unto me,
가져오고
and
그것을
after make for
너와 네
thee and
아들을
for thy
위하여
son.
만들라. 이스라엘 하나님
And thus
여호와의
saith the Lord God
말씀이
of
야기와
Israel,
비를 찌면에
The barrel of
내리는
meal shall not
날까지
waste,
통에 가루가
neither shall the
나지
cruse of
아니하리라.
oil fail,
그 병의
until the
기름은
day that
없어지지
the Lord
아니하리니
sendeth rain upon the earth.
하셨느니라. 저 가서
And she
엘리야의
went and
말씀을
did
하여
according
그의
to the saying
시내와
of
그와
Elijah, and she
식구가
and he
여러 날
and her house
먹으니라.
did eat many
여호와께서
days.
엘리야로 하신 말씀 같이 통의 가루가 다하지 아니하고 병의
And the
기름이
barrel of meal wasted
없어지지
not, neither did
아니하니라.
the cruse of oil
자,
fail,
이 말씀은
according to the word of the Lord which he spake by Elijah.
이 사르밧에 속해 있는 한
If we look at
가부가
these words,
아들과
this one
함께
widow in Zarephath,
전쟁에 임하고 있는 기근이라는
with her son,
싸우고 있는
she is fighting against this difficulty called a famine.
살아갈 길이 없어서
She had no
가지고 있는
way to
양식을
live, so
가지고
with the food that she had, little by
조금씩
little, saving and saving,
아껴가면서 겨우 안 죽을
just enough
만큼
so that they would
음식을
not die.
만들어서 오늘도
Today and
내일도
tomorrow,
한
for
달
1 month,
이렇게
2 months,
버티면서 빨리
they were trying to
기근이
bear it
풍년이 와서
so that
살 수
the
있는
famine would
그날을
pass. They were
기다리면서
just waiting for that day
살아가고 있는데
so that they could live.
기근이 끝날 줄을
But
모르는
the famine would not end.
그리고 기근이
And
끝나고
after the famine
풍년이
ends,
온다는 기약이 없는
there is no guarantee that there will be abundance
그러고는
afterwards.
어느 날
But then one day,
하나님이 이 엘리야를 사르밧으로
God sends Elijah
너
to
사르밧으로
Zarephath.
가라.
Go to Zarephath.
내가 한 가부를
I
명해서
have
너를
commanded a
건강히
widow
해놨다.
to sustain thee.
그 말 들은 엘리야가 사르밧에 와 보니까
And when Elijah came to Zarephath,
어떤 여자가
one woman
아이 하나 데리고
with her child,
뭘 스스로 탄 나무 가지를 줍고
she was going around gathering something. She was gathering sticks.
이 여자가 통에 이제 마지막에 남아있는 가루 한 움큼과 병에 기름 조금
In
남아있는
her barrel, she had a
마지막
little bit of meal
떡을
and a little bit
만들어서
of oil in her
먹고
cruse. She was going to
인생에서
make bread with that.
기도하니까
And she said, There is no more
우리
way.
운명이 여기까지구나.
This is the end of my destiny.
내가 아무리 목숨을 지키고 아들을 살리려고
No
몸부림을
matter how
치지만
much I struggle to protect
내가
myself
할 수 있는
and
여기까지
to keep my son's life, but this
이
is my
마지막
end.
떡을 먹고
I will eat
이
this
떡의
final
힘이
bread.
어디까지 버티게 해주는지
I do not know
모르겠지만은
how long this will sustain
그
me,
떡의 힘이 버텨주고 살게 해주는 데까지
but until
살다가
this
풍년이
bread
오면
sustains
살겠지만
me, if I reach that
끝입니다.
abundance, I guess that is it, but otherwise, this is my end.
그때 여인이 아들을 데리고
So this woman took her son,
성문 밖에서
and by the gate of the city,
나무 가지를 줍고 있어요.
she was gathering sticks.
고개를 숙이면서 떨어진 나무 가지를 줍고
Her head was down, and she was just gathering sticks that had fallen.
그 남아 있는 가루를 반죽을
And with
해가지고
the final bit of meal that she had, she would knead dough and then make bread and die.
여러분 한번 생각해 봅시다.
Everyone, let's think about this.
성문 밖에
By the gate of the city,
아이를 데리고 있는 이 여자
this woman, she was with her child,
뭔가를 열심히 일을 하고 있죠.
and she is working hard for something. She is gathering sticks.
근데
However,
이 여인의 인생의 그림을 자세히 들여다보면
if we look at the painting of her life,
이 여인의 인생의 그림 속에
in the painting of this woman's life,
평안이 없고
she has no peace.
소망이 없습니다.
There is no hope.
이 여인의 인생의 그림
In the painting of this woman's life, there is no happiness.
이 여인의 인생의 그림
In the
속에는
painting of this
나무
woman's
가지를
life,
열심히 줍고 있지만
although she diligently gathers sticks, she has no joy.
제가 그랬습니다.
And I was just like that too.
버려져 길바퀴 뒹굴
When I was
뭘
cast
해도
out, no matter what I did,
제 인생에는 기쁨도
there
소망도
was no joy,
행복도
no hope, no happiness, no joy in my life at all.
이 해가 지면
When the sun sets,
추운 밤 어디서 잠을 자지?
where will I spend the cold night?
이 배고픔을 어떻게 해결하지?
How can I solve this hunger?
내 내가 얼마나 버티다가 죽을까?
How long can I last before I die?
이러다가 내가 어디서 죽지?
If this goes on, where will I end up dying?
제 마음에
And in my heart,
밀려오는 불안과
the
고통과
uneasiness, the
괴로움과
pain, the
서러움과
torment, the
슬픔과
sadness,
하는
the anger,
누구도 알아주지 않지만
although no one knew it,
제 인생 삶 속에는
inside of my life,
어떤 소망이나 기쁨이 없이
I had no hope, no joy,
이 여자처럼
just like this woman.
저 그래 살았어요.
That is how I lived.
하나님이 이 여자가 나무 가지 죽은 이 여자 속에
Inside of this woman who was just gathering sticks, God sent Elijah.
그 엘리야가 여자를 보고
And Elijah saw that woman,
말을 걸었지.
and he spoke.
물을 좀 달라.
He asked for some water.
물 가지러 가는데
She was going to get water.
물 가지고 올 때 떡떡.
When you get that water, why don't you bring a small cake for me first?
나 떡 없어요.
Oh, I don't have bread.
보다시피 나 내 아들과 함께
As you can see, with my son,
홍해 한 움큼 기름과 병에
I have nothing but a small bit of meal in my barrel, a small bit of oil in my cruse. I'm gathering sticks to make bread with it and eat it and die. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what he could have said. But Elijah did not do that.
뭐라고 말하냐면
What does he say?
두려워하지 마. 가서 네 말대로 해.
Fear not, go and do as thou hast said.
그런데 먼저 나를
first,
위해서 적은 떡 하나 만들어 가지고 오고
make me a little cake, and then do as you said.
이거 가지고 떡 만들어 너 주면 나 먹을 거 없는데.
If I go and make bread and give it to you first, there's nothing for me to eat.
그냥 달락하지. 어차피
You
나
cold
죽을
man,
거니까
you should have just asked for it. I'm going to die anyways, I might as well give it. That's what she could have
먼저
said.
나를 위해서 적은 떡을 만들어 가져오고 네 말대로 해.
But first give me a small cake and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and thy son.
이스라엘 하나님 여호와의 말씀이
Then he says, For thus saith the Lord God of Israel,
비를 지면에 내리는 날까지 그 통에
the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. In the word of God, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail. Until the day God sends rain on the earth, the meal in your barrel will not fail, neither will the oil in the cruse. If you give it to me first, give it to me first, do as you say, and then God will fill and provide for you. Hey, just ask for me nicely. I'll give it to you. Why are you saying the Lord say it just to steal it from me? That's what the woman could have said. But this woman, she heard that. She heard what Elijah said. If you look in verse 15, it says, And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail. It's amazing. It was filled. This woman, she would have wanted to paint her life with happiness, with joy, with hope. She wanted to do the same for her son. But this woman, the death, sadness, sorrow, pain that came to her life, she could not block it. In her painting, there was no paint of happiness, no paint of joy, no paint of hope. But death, sorrow, pain, torment, it was just a painting of darkness. As Elijah entered this life, all she did was accept those words and do accordingly. But then in the painting of her life, the paint of hope, the paint of joy, of happiness started to overflow, and her life
전에 나무
changed.
가지 죽는 게 슬픔이었고
Before it
괴로움이었고
was pain, it
고통이었고
was torment for
이제
her to
나무가
go
힘
and pick up
쏟고 막
sticks.
반죽을 하고
But now she picks up sticks,
기름을
she
붓고
kneads the dough,
물을
she
퍼나고
pours
막
oil,
밀가루 반죽하는지
she adds some
보면서
water, she makes the
반죽을 하고
dough.
퍼내면 퍼낼수록 자꾸
The
채워지니까
more she takes out of the meal and makes dough,
나도 먹고 너도 먹고 이것도 먹고
it
다
gets
먹고
more filled.
사는
She eats, he eats, her whole house eats. It's a miracle.
이 여인이
This woman,
무슨 제조로 죽음에서 벗어날 수 있었어?
with what way could she avoid death?
제가 무슨 제조로 버림받은 데서
With what way
피를 더 주고 인생이 달라지셨어?
could my life that was abandoned be saved?
이진아
Ijin,
나와 함께 교회 가자.
let's go to church.
하나님 제 인생에 엘리야와 같은
In my life,
사람을 만나게 하시고
God allowed me to meet the servant who was like Elijah, and through that servant,
오늘의 이 삶을 살 수 있는 인생을 바꾸어 주셨다.
he had changed my life
이
so I could
여인을
live
위해서
my life
하나님은
today.
엘리야를 보냈어.
God sent
이
Elijah to
여인의
this woman
인생을 바꾸셨어.
and changed this woman's life.
슬픔과 죽음과 고통으로 가는 삶이 아니라
No longer a
예배
life of
동안
sorrow and
나무
pain and
가지를
torment.
줍든 일을 하든 물을 퍼든
Now, when
가루를
she picks up
퍼내든
the sticks or
반죽을
makes
하든 뭘 하든
the
기쁨과
dough or
즐거움과
picks,
소망으로 사는
gathers water,
삶으로
she does it
바꾸셨다.
all with hope. God had changed her life.
우리 주님께서 이 여인의 인생을 바꾼다.
And just as how God changed this woman's life.
요한복음 5장에 나오는 38년 병자를 주님이 바꾸셨다.
Just as how God changed the life of the man with infirmity 38 years in John chapter 5
박이진이에게 주님이
to Heejin Park, who was abandoned, forsaken, and ignored. The Lord came and changed my life. How?
다시는 슬퍼하는 삶이 아니라
No longer a life of sorrow.
다시는 두려워하고
No
절망과
longer
좌절 속에 살지 아니하고
do I live in fear, in
이
disappointment, in
여인이
despair.
엘리야의 말을 들을 때마다
Every time this woman hears the word of Elijah, her life
이
changes.
여인에게는 기쁨의 물감이 없지만
Although this
엘리야에게는
woman has no
기쁨의
paint of joy,
소망의
Elijah has a
물감이,
paint of
행복의
joy,
물감,
the paint of hope, the paint of
즐거움의 물감.
happiness.
엘리야의 말을 따라 할 때마다
Every time
이
she did
여인의
according to the
삶은
words of Elijah,
행복으로 소망으로 즐거움으로 기쁨으로 달라지.
her life is changing to that of hope and joy and happiness.
전체 인생을 그렇게 살게.
That afternoon, the Lord had also made my life like that. God through his servant.
제 아내의 아무것도 아니야.
To my wife and her
빨리
cancer,
수술
cancer,
서둘러.
it's nothing. Hurry up with the surgery. If she eats
못
dobia,
알아듣-
she'll be healed.
또 해주시.
And because I couldn't understand, he told me again. He repeated himself.
그러면서 제 인생을
And then, as he had changed my life,
오늘날 하나님께서 우리
today,
인생을
in order to change our lives,
주시기 위해서 때로는
at
이런저런
times he gives us difficulties and pain.
주님과
The
우리가
Lord
하나로
leads us to become one with him.
그 안에 우리 모두가
And I
복된
hope that we can
삶을
all live a blessed life in that.